Adam Blackwell, a man met with disdainful looks and whispered suspicions in his new neighborhood, never let his confidence waver. The neighbors built walls of judgment and isolation around him, unaware of one simple truth. He already held the keys to their future. What he did next would shock even the most seasoned. But let's start from the beginning. Adam Blackwell, a 42-year-old black man with neatly cropped black hair and a confident demeanor, stepped into the pristine world of Maple Grove residences for the first time. Dressed in a light linen suit, his polished leather loafers clicked softly on the stone pathway as he admired the immaculate symmetry of the elite neighborhood. The summer day was perfect, with a bright blue sky, the sun casting a golden glow over manicured lawns and perfectly aligned trees. Yet the air was heavy with tension. The residents, predominantly white and ranging in age from their 30s to 60s, began to emerge. Some peeked from behind their white curtains. Others stood frozen on their green, pristine lawns. Among them was Julia Carter, a 45-year-old woman with ash-blonde hair styled into a sleek bob, dressed in a cream summer dress with pearl earrings that glinted in the sunlight. Standing beside her was her husband, Michael, a stocky 50-year-old man with closely cropped gray hair, wearing beige shorts and a crisp blue polo shirt. Their hushed whispers carried on the warm breeze. "Did you see that? A new neighbor," Julia murmured, her voice tight with skepticism. Michael frowned, folding his arms across his chest. "He doesn't look like someone who belongs here," he muttered, his gaze fixed on Adam like a hawk watching its prey. Unfazed but aware of the attention, Adam offered a friendly wave to a passing resident. He approached a man trimming his lawn, extending a hand. "Good afternoon. I'm Adam. Nice to meet you." His tone was warm, his smile genuine. The man, Tom, a 35-year-old with sandy blonde hair, dressed in a light gray t-shirt and khaki shorts, glanced at Adam briefly. Without shaking his hand, Tom gave a curt nod. "Afternoon," he mumbled, immediately returning to his work, as if Adam hadn't spoken at all. By evening, the Maple Grove Homeowners Association gathered in the community hall, a gleaming space with polished wood floors and tasteful chandeliers. Julia stood at the center of the room, her voice cutting through the murmurs of concern. "We need to find out who he is and why he's here," she declared, her hands gesturing animatedly. The crowd nodded, some whispering in agreement. "Maybe he's just a temporary tenant," suggested another resident, her voice dripping with unease. "Or a mistake in the leasing process," added Michael, his tone harsh and laced with irritation. Meanwhile, Adam sat in his newly furnished apartment, a sleek modern space with a neutral palette and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the city skyline. At the center of the room was a large oak dining table, where he spread out a stack of papers bearing an official logo. Leaning back in his chair, Adam studied the documents, a faint smile playing on his lips. "They have no idea," he said softly, his voice steady and calm. His gaze shifted to the glowing skyline outside, his smile widening. The following morning, Adam Blackwell decided to take a leisurely stroll through the Maple Grove residences. Dressed in a light gray button-down shirt and dark jeans, he exuded a relaxed confidence as he walked the neatly paved paths, lined with blooming hydrangeas and perfectly trimmed hedges. His calm demeanor and steady stride drew the attention of the residents, who watched from behind curtains or paused mid-task to steal glances. Meanwhile, near the community pool, a sparkling oasis surrounded by white lounge chairs and blue umbrellas, Julia Carter had gathered a group of residents for an impromptu safety discussion. She was dressed in a tailored white blouse and tan slacks, her voice carrying with practiced authority. "I've heard rumors," Julia began, her tone sharp, "that he might be involved in some shady dealings. We need to take precautions to protect our neighborhood." Michael, wearing a dark green polo and beige khakis, nodded in agreement, his expression grim. "We can't be too careful," he added, folding his arms tightly across his chest. Tom, standing to the side in a navy t-shirt and cargo shorts, chimed in with a muttered, "Better safe than sorry," while the other residents murmured their approval. As the group deliberated, Adam continued his stroll, taking in the pristine surroundings. However, he couldn't ignore the subtle signs of exclusion. A woman walking a small terrier quickly crossed to the other side of the path when she saw him approach, her eyes darting nervously. Moments later, a man with a newspaper tucked under his arm abruptly turned the corner to avoid crossing paths with Adam. Their deliberate actions painted a clear picture of discomfort and unease. Though the atmosphere was tense, Adam's expression remained calm. He paused occasionally to admire the scenery, his dark brown eyes scanning the surroundings with quiet resolve. Eventually, he returned to his apartment, where the polished marble countertops and contemporary decor offered a stark contrast to the hostility outside. Checking his mail, Adam found a collection of letters and flyers. Among them was a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper bearing the words, "You don't belong here." The message was printed in bold black letters, its intent unmistakable. Adam sighed, folding the note carefully and placing it in a drawer. His phone buzzed on the countertop, displaying the name Lisa. Answering the call, Adam's tone lightened as he greeted his younger sister. "Hey, big brother," Lisa said warmly. At 35, she had short, curly hair and an easy laugh that often lifted Adam's spirits. "How are things? How are the new neighbors treating you?" Adam hesitated for a moment before replying, his voice steady. "It's challenging, but I'll handle it," he said, his confidence unwavering. Lisa, sensing the underlying tension, offered encouragement. "You always do. Just remember, you've earned your place there. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." As the call ended, Adam leaned back in his chair, his gaze drifting to the window. Outside, the sunlit community bustled with activity, but the undercurrent of resistance was undeniable. Adam's resolve hardened. "This is just the beginning," he thought, the faintest smile forming on his lips. A week later, the Maple Grove administration called for a mandatory meeting in the spacious community conference hall. The room, with its high ceilings, elegant chandeliers, and floor-to-ceiling windows, offered a view of the meticulously maintained gardens outside. Nearly every resident had shown up, their curiosity piqued by the vague agenda. Julia and Michael Carter sat in the front row, their body language stiff, with Julia's arms crossed and her lips pressed into a thin line. Michael adjusted his navy blazer repeatedly, a telltale sign of his discomfort. At the back of the room, Adam Blackwell entered quietly, but with undeniable presence. He was dressed impeccably in a dark navy suit, tailored to perfection, paired with a silver tie and polished black shoes. His short black hair was neatly combed, and his calm, confident demeanor immediately drew the attention of those seated near the entrance. The quiet murmurs in the room grew louder as he made his way to an empty seat near the front, acknowledging the occasional glance with a polite nod. On stage, the complex's longtime property manager, Mr. Grayson, stood behind a wooden podium. A man in his early 60s, with neatly combed silver hair and a stern expression, softened only by his professional smile, he adjusted the microphone and began speaking. "Thank you all for attending today's meeting," Mr. Grayson began, his deep voice commanding the room's attention. "As many of you know, our community has always been committed to excellence, and with that in mind, we are pleased to announce some exciting changes to the management of Maple Grove residences." The room stirred with anticipation, heads turning to exchange curious glances. Julia leaned toward Michael, whispering something inaudible but clearly skeptical. Tom, seated a few rows back in a light gray sweater and khakis, frowned, his brow furrowed. Mr. Grayson's smile widened slightly. "It is my great pleasure to introduce the new owner of Maple Grove Residences, Mr. Adam Blackwell." He gestured toward Adam, who rose gracefully from his seat. A stunned silence fell over the room. Julia's face turned a deep shade of red as her jaw slackened. Michael leaned back in his chair, visibly struggling to process the announcement. Tom let out a low whistle, his disbelief mirrored by the murmurs spreading through the audience like wildfire. Adam stepped onto the stage with measured strides, his polished shoes clicking against the hardwood floor. His expression remained composed, his dark brown eyes scanning the crowd. At the podium, He adjusted the microphone and spoke with a calm yet firm tone. "I understand that my arrival here may have raised some questions," Adam began, his voice steady. "But I want to assure you that my goal is to enhance the community for everyone who calls this place home." The murmurs grew louder, and questions began to erupt from the crowd. Tom was the first to stand, his face a mix of confusion and frustration. "Why were we kept in the dark about this?" he demanded, his voice sharp. Before Adam could respond, Julia shot to her feet, her summer dress swaying as she glared at the stage. "Why you?" she asked, her tone dripping with disdain. "What makes you think you can understand what this community needs?" Adam met her gaze with unwavering calm. "I've taken time to learn about this community and its residents," he replied. "My plans are to improve facilities, enhance safety, and ensure that everyone feels welcome here. I'm here to listen to your concerns and work together to make Maple Grove the best it can be." The room buzzed with skepticism. Julia exchanged heated whispers with Michael, while others folded their arms, their faces etched with doubt. A few residents nodded cautiously, intrigued by Adam's poise and professionalism, but the majority remained guarded. As questions continued to fly, Adam remained patient, addressing each concern with measured responses. "Transparency is important to me," he said firmly. "Moving forward, I will ensure open communication with all of you. I'm not here to disrupt your lives. I'm here to improve them." The tension in the room slowly began to ease, though the atmosphere remained charged. Julia's sharp glare persisted, and Michael's uneasy expression hadn't softened. Yet for every skeptical glance, there was also a glimmer of curiosity, a hint of willingness to see what this new chapter might bring. As the meeting concluded, Adam stepped down from the stage, his shoulders squared and his stride purposeful. He was met with lingering stares and hushed conversations, but his resolve remained unshaken. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the complex. Adam paused near the entrance to the hall, gazing at the community he now led. Despite the challenges ahead, a faint smile tugged at his lips. "They'll understand in time," he thought to himself. "Actions will speak louder than words." Several months passed, and the atmosphere in Maple Grove residences began to shift. The once tense and divided community was slowly warming under Adam Blackwell's leadership. Adam, a 42-year-old black man with short, neatly styled black hair, continued his efforts to connect with the residents. Always impeccably dressed, this time in a tailored charcoal gray blazer, a crisp white shirt, and dark trousers, he walked the complex daily, meeting neighbors, listening to their concerns, and finding ways to address them. The changes were undeniable. Adam introduced new landscaping initiatives, adding vibrant flower beds and shaded seating areas to the grounds. He upgraded the security systems, installed better lighting in communal areas, and organized regular town hall meetings to foster open communication. His commitment to transparency resonated with many, and the once skeptical residents began to see the tangible benefits of his leadership. One sunny afternoon, during a community barbecue held in the central park of the complex, Adam stood near the grills, chatting with a group of residents. The park, now equipped with new picnic tables and freshly planted trees, buzzed with activity. Families gathered, children played on the newly refurbished playground, and the smell of burgers and hot dogs filled the air. Julia Carter, the 45-year-old woman who had been one of Adam's most vocal critics, approached him hesitantly. Dressed in a simple blue blouse and beige slacks, her demeanor was noticeably different. Her usually sharp gaze was softer, and she seemed unsure of how to start. Her husband, Michael, stood a few steps back, giving her a nod of encouragement. "Mr. Blackwell," she began, her voice quieter than usual. Adam turned to face her, his warm, approachable smile inviting her to continue. I wanted to say I was wrong," Julia admitted, lowering her eyes momentarily before meeting his gaze again. "I realized I was unfair to you. I was prejudiced, and I'm sorry." Adam's smile widened slightly, but his tone remained calm and understanding. "Thank you for saying that, Julia," he replied, extending his hand. "Change is never easy, but it's a part of growth. We're all learning." They shook hands, and for the first time, Julia seemed genuinely at ease. Michael stepped forward, offering his thanks as well. "The improvements you've made here, they've been remarkable," he said, his tone sincere. The barbecue was a turning point for many. Tom, the 35-year-old resident who had initially avoided Adam, approached him later that afternoon. Wearing a casual polo shirt and khaki shorts, he offered an unexpected suggestion. "Hey, Adam," he said, scratching the back of his neck. "I was thinking, maybe we could organize some sports activities for the kids. You know, keep them active. I'd be happy to help." Adam's face lit up. "That's a fantastic idea, Tom. Let's work on that together." The culmination of these changes came during a community celebration a month later. The complex organized a festival to mark the completion of the upgrades and improvements spearheaded by Adam. The event featured live music, food trucks, and games for kids. The mood was jubilant, with residents mingling and laughing, many of whom had barely spoken to each other months earlier. Adam took the stage midway through the event, dressed in a dark blue suit and an open-collared white shirt, his expression both proud and humbled. "This community has come a long way," he began, addressing the crowd. "And it's because of all of you. Your willingness to adapt, to embrace change, and to work together has made Maple Grove a better place for everyone." The crowd erupted into applause. Julia and Michael clapped enthusiastically, while Tom gave Adam a thumbs up from across the crowd. Children ran past, laughing, their parents watching with smiles. Adam's story became a powerful example within the community, proof that patience, resilience, and a commitment to fairness could overcome even deeply rooted biases. For the residents of Maple Grove, the journey reminded them that prejudice, while deeply ingrained, was a barrier that could be dismantled with understanding and effort. As the festival came to a close, Adam stood near the park's fountain, watching as neighbors who had once isolated him now chatted warmly with one another. His sister Lisa, visiting for the event, joined him. "You've really turned this place around," she said with a proud smile. Adam nodded, his gaze steady. "It's not just about what I've done," he replied. "It's about what they've learned, and what we've learned together."